Hi, and welcome back to Drawing Conclusions. My name is Lauren Keller, and if you don't know who I am an aspiring graphic novelist / person who loves reading books, and I'm combining the two of my loves into one series where I review a book and I also redesign the cover of the book that I read as if it were a graphic novel. I'm really excited about today's book. I don't know if you've noticed, but the first 3 books that I've read for this series have been very short, and that was because I mentioned this in one of my videos. But at the end of the new year, I really had to finish my Goodreads goal, so I picked 3 really short ones. Hopefully that's been a good way to start this series off if you've been really intimidated by reading. When you read a short book, it usually delivers a pretty powerful punch, and that's how I felt with this one. So the first thing I do with my videos is I give a little bit of an introduction to the book and a little synopsis of what happens. If you're not interested in reading the book, then you can just kind of glaze over that part and I'll be telling the plot. But if you are interested, it's spoiler-free. I give just a little bit of background information so that you can go ahead and read the book. Then I give the entire summary of the plot. I go into detail. If you've read the book, it's just a little bit of a story time. And then at the end, I get into my review of the book. While all of this is happening, you'll see that I am redesigning the cover of the book as if it were a graphic novel. I'm trying to get better at drawing. This series has kind of made me realize how far I have to go with my skills, and it's made me take my art a little bit more seriously. I had a lot of fun making this one though, and you'll see that at the very end. So without further ado, let's get into it. The name of this book is A Psalm for the Wild-Built by Becky Chambers. It was published in, I believe, July of 2021, and it's not a very long book, like I said. I listened to the audiobook for this one, and it was only 4 hours, so it's a pretty quick read. I want to say that I saw this one on Instagram or on BookTube. I don't think any of my friends have read it yet, so I must have seen it on social media somewhere. I also saw that it had really, really good ratings, and that made me interested for such a short book. The book is about a monk who has dedicated their life to serving others, but is a little bit disenchanted on their quest to help other people, and is looking for a little bit more meaning when they come across a robot. And in this fictional world, robots were created by the humans, but decided to leave humanity, and this is the first robot anybody has seen in decades, maybe even hundreds of years. They form an unlikely friendship, and they decide to cross this continent in search of some more meaning, and they have really good conversations along the way. It's a really warm, comfortable, happy book. I wouldn't say that all parts of it are happy, but it left me feeling really satisfied. I really loved it. As far as content warning goes, I really don't think it was that, that crazy. There might have been some language, but not a lot that I remember. I mean, there was mentions of sex, but there were no, sexual situations or anything like that. So pretty tame in my opinion. So that is the little synopsis. I totally would recommend this one. So even if you weren't planning on reading it, maybe you should go read it. Again, it's short. You lose nothing. You gain everything. Go read it. But let's get into the plot. So we open on this fictional world of Panga, which I put together is, I think, a moon. This is sci-fi-ish, but it's not if you're scared of sci-fi, it's not sci-fi. It's just a fictional world. The world kind of resembles an eco-futuristic solar punk type vibe. At least that's what I was picking up. A long time ago, humanity had built robots to work in factories and to serve their own needs, but the robots collectively decided that they had a different purpose and they wanted to leave. So with the goodwill from humans, they left, and nobody has seen the robots for a really, really, really long time. Nobody really knows where they are. They're just happy by themselves on their own wherever. Since the years that the robots had left, humanity just grew. They call the period where the robots served the factory age, and since then, humans had progressed past that point. As far as I picked up, it was a very peaceful world. It was very accepting, happy. In general, it seemed like they had things figured out. There was no mention of war. People had everyday problems, but it's not like they were big, serious ecological problems. Dex is our main character, a monk who serves underneath this pantheon of gods. Dex is living in the big city and kind of comes to this realization that they don't really want to be there anymore. They're just ready for something new, so they decide to leave. Dex becomes what is known as a tea monk, which is where, think of a therapist kind of situation. Dex serves tea, and then other people can talk about their problems. It's not like professional medical help or anything, it's just someone to listen to. So Dex picks up their life, They move out to the more rural parts of their location, and they set up life as a tea monk. And at first, it's very intimidating. They don't really know how to help people, and there's this really kind of funny interaction with this woman who needs help, and she goes, "So how long have you been doing this?" And Dex is like, "Yeah, this is my first one." And she's like, "I can tell." Like, it's a really awkward interaction. But over the course of time, Dex actually becomes really good at their job. And they become pretty famous over Panga for being a really good tea monk. They're good at knowing what people need, and they're good at understanding what people are trying to say, and they're good at comforting. Despite that, Dex starts to feel just a little bit worn out by this line of work. It's very overwhelming to handle people's problems all the time with not a lot of resolution at the end. That isn't to say that they don't love their job. It's just emotionally taxing. So they're traveling through Panga one day, going on to a new city, and they stop for the night. And they're like cooking, and they're getting ready to go to bed, when all of a sudden, out of the woods, comes a robot. And Dex is obviously completely shocked by this turn of events, because nobody has seen robots in a really absurdly long time. In fact, nobody's even really thought about the robots in an absurdly long time. They've just kind of been something that has existed somewhere else. And so when one shows up at Dex's little campsite, it's just very shocking. The robot identifies himself as Mosscap, and it says that it is here to make sure that humankind was okay after the robots had all left. Robots were just a little bit worried that maybe everything had fallen apart after they left, and they sent Mosscap to go see if there was anything that the humans really needed. So again, the robots didn't leave out of spite, the humans weren't angry, and I think this was a gesture of goodwill from the robots, just making sure that everything was okay. So Mosscap asks Dex, what do humans need? Which is a really complex question. So Dex at first is very surprised and very confused and doesn't know how to answer, but eventually kind of accepts Mosscap's presence. Now, I just mentioned that Dex is growing a little bit not sick, but exhausted from their life as a tea monk. And they have this idea to go back to this hermitage. It was he was thinking about crickets one night, and he learned that the last crickets left on Panga were at this hermitage, supposedly. Dex kind of got it in their head that they wanted to go and visit this hermitage. So he tells Mosscap, well, I'm traveling through to go to this hermitage, and Mosscap is like, great, I'll just go with you, and then we can talk, and I can see if humans need anything. And Dex is like, okay, whatever, do whatever you want. Now, along the way, and I would say for the bulk of this book, Mosscap and Dex just have conversations about what the robots are doing, what the humans are doing. Mosscap is really interested in human life and how people are doing. And at the same time, Dex is confused but curious about how the robots have their own society. They talk about societal roles. They talk about nature. Mosscap is really into insects and people's roles. It's just really good conversations. It's hard for me, Lauren, to sum up everything they say. But just know it was just really fun. I think you should just probably go read the book if you want more in-depth knowledge on their conversations. But I remember one of my favorite conversations they had was that they were going to leave the trail so that they could get to this abandoned hermitage. And Dex has a fear. He's like, well, we shouldn't leave the trail. The trail is here for a reason. And Mosscap is like, well, trails were all just the middle of the woods once. We should just go make our own trail. And Dex is like, yeah, but if we leave the path, we'll be recklessly hurting nature. We'll be stepping on bugs. We'll be trampling through trees. And Mosscap is like, you're right. That would be really sad. But at the same time, it's okay. It's fine. We need to put things in perspective here. And it was just a really interesting conversation. The robot is surprisingly insightful, and Dex is able to ask a lot of good questions. And in the course of their journey, they, I would say, become companions. Now they get to this point in the woods where they find out that the road to the hermitage is blocked. And Dex is a little bit upset at Mosscap because Mosscap was the one that suggested they leave the trail. And then when they get to this blocked passage, Dex is like, look. And Mosscap is like, oh darn, we'll just have to go around And Dex is like, it's more serious than that. Like, we left all our stuff behind so we could leave the trail. Now we don't have anything, and we don't have any way to get across, and we're just stuck in the woods. They blame Mosscap for what has happened. They end up staying in this cave for the night because they don't have any supplies. And despite it all, Dex starts to open up about their insecurity and their indecision about their pathway in life. Dex talked about how when they were a child, they had visited a monastery, and Dex had become really good friends with the monks, and how the people there had made them feel really safe. And every time Dex had a bad day at school, he could always just go there. And that's what had inspired him to want to become a monk himself. And so he felt like that was his purpose in life, was to help other people feel that safe and comforted. And yet, he feels like his life as a tea monk has just been really emotionally draining. And Dex doesn't know what to do because they felt like this was their purpose, and yet, if it was their purpose, why is it draining them so much? Mosscap also has this kind of moment where they realize that all that they wanted to do, their only goal in coming to visit the humans, was to help and find out what the humans needed. But the question of what do humans need is really complex and different for everybody, and ultimately, Mosscap probably can't do anything. Even with Dex pretty clearly outlined their problem. I am feeling unsatisfied in my line of work. And the robot, Mosscap, was like, I don't think I can help you with that. That was a frustrating realization for Mosscap as well. They end up having this kind of tender moment where they accept one another, and it's not so much their problems were solved, but they ended up just listening to what the other one had to say, and just feeling good about it. They do end up making it to the abandoned hermitage, and they get to go around and see all the rooms and see the pantheon with the gods. They marvel at the beauty and the humanity that they find there. They feel a really strong connection to other people and to the gods and to each other. And Mosscap says that they want to travel over Panga and meet other people and see what they can do to help. And Dex agrees to go with them and help them on their quest. And that's the end. When I read this book, I did not realize it was a series. And I want to apologize. When I choose books for the series, I really, really want to choose standalone books because I have this weird thing about like commitment. Like when I read the first book, I have to read the whole series. When I start a book, I have to finish it. And when I do a video, I don't want to like get you to read the first book and then feel like you have to finish the series. There is technically another book in this series called A Song for the Crown Shy, I want to say. I could be wrong. But I feel like this book could easily be standalone. Like, I feel no pressure to go on to the next book. And that's saying something because I usually feel quite a lot of pressure. So if you don't want to read the second book, you don't have to. Just know that it's out there. But that was the end of this book. So let's get into my review. You could probably tell by the way that I have presented everything so far that I liked it a lot. I'll tell you why. First of all, the writing was really cute. It was really easy to understand. Again, I listened to the audiobook, and I thought that it was a really easy listen. It never, the writing never took me out of the story. I have no bones to pick with what happened. There was a really rich and interesting world built. I really enjoyed being in Panga. It was really fun. It felt very safe there. I liked it a lot. I would want to go back. I would want to visit this place for real. So yeah, not a lot of feedback on the writing itself. The premise, I liked a lot. It was sci-fi. Don't get me wrong. It was like sci-fi fantasy, but it also wasn't. I mean, it was, but if you're not a fan of sci-fi, then this was a perfect book. Because it's really more of like a vessel for us to reflect. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like the author created a fun situation that we could follow while at the same time being engaged in these deeper conversations. If I just read a book about two people going on a hike, talking about their life, I'm sure it would be good. It might also be boring. I think that because we're with this monk in this really unique situation and this robot, it makes for a really fun read while also being able to explore a different side of humanity. It wasn't boring. I think The Alchemist does kind of the same thing, where our main character goes on a really interesting quest and along the way learns a lot about life. If it was just a book about some guy learning about life, it's kind of slow. But because we have this really fun sci-fi situation, it doesn't feel that way at all. But maybe that's the point of storytelling. We're all trying to deliver a message here. What package are we delivering the message in? I just happen to really like this package. I thought it was a fun premise. So as far as the purpose of the book goes, my only complaint, and this is such a small complaint, but my only complaint is that at times it was just a little bit slow. Just a little bit. Not enough to make me want to stop, but it wasn't a page turner either. If you're like really into thrillers, this is definitely more like a walk in the park as opposed to a high-speed car chase. Which is perfect if that's what you're going for. I just wanted to warn you. I found both of the main characters, Dex and Mosscap, really relatable. Both of the journey they went on and the revelations that they kind of came to. I don't know how she did it, but like both of the characters, every time they said something, I was like, yeah, they're right. Yeah, they're right. No, wait, no, they're right. Like, even when they were arguing, I was kind of on both of their sides. I could easily see myself being either character and making those decisions or having those feelings. On the one hand, you had Dex, and Dex struggled a lot with the idea of, I'm not really sure who I am or what my purpose is. I thought I knew, but it's not satisfying me in the way it used to. I just made a huge change. I don't know if I need to make another one. These are really hard questions to answer, and I feel like I found myself in the same place. Even problems that I've had that seem a lot smaller than his, like, what apartment should I move into? Or did I make the right decision? Or is this the school I want to attend? Or is this the way that I want to handle this relationship with this family member? I feel like I could relate to Dex's insecurity, even when my decisions weren't maybe as important as his. I think that the revelation that Dex came to at the end was that even though they don't know what they want to do, that's okay. And even if they made the wrong decision, they could always fix it. And I've been in that situation too, where I'm like, okay, I probably shouldn't have done that, but it's fine. I'm just going to learn from my mistake and move on. Or, yeah, I didn't actually want to do that, but now I know more about myself, and so maybe the experience was important. On the other side of things, you have Mosscap, who tries so desperately to help and realizes that they just can't. That's just not their role. They just can't solve all the problems they want to solve. And sometimes they try to solve a problem and it just makes it worse. And then they want to fix it more and they just can't. And I have definitely been there. I am someone who loves to fix things. And when I feel like I can't, it's a frustrating feeling. But the acceptance that it's not always your job or your problem as much as you want to help, that's an important revelation. Anyway, it was just a very warm book to read. I liked both of the characters. I liked their situations. I loved their conversations. At times they were silly, and at times they were sad, and at times they were hopeful, and I just really liked it all. It kind of reminded me, now this is way different, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. Hopefully I said that word right. But in the same way where it takes mundane experiences about human nature and just romanticizes them. In a good way. Like, there's something that makes me feel very connected to everyone else when we all have the same love for, like, a shared experience. Like, when John Green talked about Diet Dr. Pepper, I'm like, yeah, I also love Diet Dr. Pepper. I kind of felt that way about this book, too, where they were sharing experiences that I found so relatable. It was hard not to have this swell of love for being human. It was hopeful, and it was cathartic, and it was happy. I liked it a lot. So I did give this book 5 out of 5 on Goodreads. Would I say it's the most perfect book ever written? No. But I think it deserved a 5 out of 5. If you're curious about like what I believe are the best books ever written, I do have a shelf on my Goodreads that say, I think it's called Actually 10 Stars. And I have some of my favorites of all time on there. This one didn't quite make the list, but I did really, really, really love it. And maybe it will after a while, after I sit on it for a bit. Maybe it's just still too fresh. Maybe on like a second rereading. I don't know. Maybe I'll love the second one more. I haven't decided if I'm going to read it yet or not. I'm still kind of on the fence. Again, I hate commitment. I hate feeling like I have to do something. But yeah, that is A Psalm for the Wild Belt. It was great. Anyway, let's talk about the art. I decided to use a reference for this one. You kind of saw that I was using just for the background. Painting is hard, and I'm not very good at it, and I'm still really new at it. I used a lot of pencil and paper growing up, not so much painting, and then even when I got into digital art, it just was confusing. I've never been to art school. I've never taken an art class after like high school level, and so I'm still kind of trying to figure out how to do this whole thing. I mentioned this in the beginning, but I think the series has really made me want to step up with my art and be more intentional about practicing my skill. I don't think this one turned out bad at all. I actually really like it, but the more I go, the more I'm like, I want to feel a little bit more practiced. But I do like the lighting on this one, like the light coming through the trees. That was kind of fun to do. I primarily use Krita, and using Procreate is just so different sometimes, but it's been fun to use, and it's really convenient that it's just on my iPad. That's why I'm doing it. Anyway, this video is a little bit shorter because the book was a little bit shorter, and I didn't have as much to, like, when you read a really bad book, there's a lot to talk about. When you read a really good book, it's just kind of like 2 thumbs up. So I hope you enjoyed this video anyway. Thanks so much for watching. I will share all the photo credit for my inspiration and the books that I mentioned down in the description, as well as the list of books that I will be reading if you wanted to follow along in the future. I did have to make a little bit of a change to one of them. I read a book and it was part of a series and I did not realize it, and I don't want to put that kind of pressure on you guys. So I switched it out for something else. Just pay attention. If you had fun watching this video and you want to see more, please like this video and subscribe. Next time, I think I am reading The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store, which was, I'm not finished it yet, but so far it is a delight. Again, thank you so much. I had so much fun making this, and I will see you next time.